The auction chain's market was dark, loud, and filled with the smell of oil, metal, and fear. Under the orange lights of the alien moon, people moved like shadows, buying, selling, and trading anything and everything. This was not a normal market. This was the black auction. And tonight, they were selling slaves. Humans were rare here. Most buyers were from different planets: scales, fur, horns, cold eyes. But one human walked slowly through the crowd. His name was JACE. JACE was not like the others. He was not here to own. He was here to observe, to understand, and maybe to change something. He moved past cages and glass boxes, where girls with tired eyes and broken spirits sat. Some begged, some cried, some just stared at nothing. He hated this place, hated what they were doing, but he had a reason to be here. Then he saw her. She wasn't crying, she wasn't begging, she wasn't even looking down. She was standing head high, back straight, eyes sharp. Her silver hair was messy, but her posture was proud. Even in chains, she looked like she didn't belong here. Their eyes met. For a moment, everything around Jace became quiet. He didn't understand it, but something about her froze him. She wasn't like the others. As the auctioneer shouted, "Lot 31. Strong, silent, healthy." High value. Jace stepped forward. The girl's eyes narrowed. She didn't move, didn't speak, till Jace reached for his credit stick. Then she whispered, "Don't choose me." Her voice was low, soft, filled with something strange: warning, pride, sorrow. Jace blinked. "Why not?" "Because they fear who I was," she said. Before he could ask more, another bidder raised a hand. Jace didn't wait. He doubled the bid. Voices rose. The auctioneer smiled. And just like that, it was done. She was his. They brought her out in chains. When she passed him, she didn't look away. Jace felt her gaze like a fire. "Do you have a name?" he asked. She didn't answer. They walked through the docking bay in silence. Jace led her to his ship, a small freighter named Emberlight. Inside, he gave her water, food, and a soft blanket. "You're not a master," she said finally, sitting down in the corner. "No," Jace replied. "And you're not a slave." She looked at him for a long time. Her eyes searched his face, looking for a lie. "Then why did you buy me?" "'Cause no one else saw it," he said. "But I did. In your eyes, you were someone once." She lowered her head. "I was more than someone." He waited. She looked tired but not weak. "They called me Kylara," she said quietly. "First daughter of the Alari High Court. Princess of 7 systems." Jace didn't laugh. He didn't doubt her. Her voice was steady. Her eyes were fierce. This wasn't madness. This was memory. "What happened?" he asked. "Betrayal. Blood. War," she whispered. "My own family sold me to the black ships to make sure I never returned." Silence filled the ship. Jace felt a weight in the air, the kind of pain that had lived for years in silence. "Well," he said gently, "princess or not, you're safe now." Kylara looked at the food, the warm light, the simple kindness. Then she said, "Safety is not freedom." He nodded. "Then let's work on both." As the Emberlight lifted off from the moon and disappeared into the stars, Kylara closed. Her eyes, for the first time in a long time, not from fear, but from a spark of hope. The chains were gone, but the fire in her eyes had just begun to burn again. The hidden mark, the Emberlight, drifted through deep space, its engines quiet, stars floating like frozen dreams outside the window. Inside, the air was still, but the silence between Jace and Kylara was louder than any storm. She hadn't spoken much after the auction. She barely touched the food. But she also didn't sleep. Jack noticed everything. He pretended to check the ship's systems. But his eyes often returned to her. She was sitting near the window now, wrapped in the blanket he gave her, staring into space. Her silver hair caught the starlight. Her wrists still carried faint bruises from the iron cuffs. But what haunted Jace most were the scars on her back. He had seen them when she had changed clothes, sharp lines. Burned symbols, carved into her skin by fire. Not random, not cruel marks from abuse. These were deliberate, ceremonial, and ancient, and one symbol looked familiar. It was the royal crest of the Alari Empire, burned into her skin as if to erase it forever. JACE tapped a command on his console. He searched old galactic records. The crest was real. The princess, Kalara, was real too, but she had been declared dead 3 years ago, murdered during a rebellion. Official records said her body was never found. Liars, Jace whispered. Kalara didn't turn around. They wanted me erased. He froze. You heard me? She nodded slowly. I've learned to listen, even when people don't speak. Jace sat down across from her. I looked you up. Everything matches. The mark on your back? It's the royal flame. Your flame. Kalara looked down. They tried to burn it off. But fire can't kill fire. The room went quiet again. Why didn't you fight them? Jace asked softly. She smiled without joy. I did. I fought until my guards turned, until my cousin held a knife to my brother's throat. I had 2 choices: watch my people burn or surrender. And they sold you, Jace whispered. They said a princess without a kingdom is worth less than a slave. So they made sure no one ever knew. Jace clenched his fists. It ends now. Kalara looked at him. What will you do? Storm a palace. Fight an empire. Maybe, he said with a small smile. But first, I want to take you somewhere safe. No, she said quickly. Safety's where they won't look, but that's not where I need to go. Jace raised an eyebrow. Where then? She stood up and walked toward a small storage room. Somewhere they buried the truth. A planet where my father hid the last message before he died. Jace followed her. You remember the location? No, she said. But I remember a key. She reached into her torn robe and pulled out a small metallic shard. It glowed faintly like a star trapped in metal. What is that? Jace asked. My blood, Kalara said, mixed with my father's final words. As she pressed it into the ship's navigation panel, the lights flickered. A new route appeared, coordinates locked, encrypted, hidden in a code only a true Alari could open. Destination. Clivaro's a dead planet, long abandoned, lost to dust and time. But as soon as the route appeared, the ship's alarm screamed. Incoming vessel detected, tracking us. Jace's face turned serious. Someone's following us. Kyla narrowed her eyes. Not someone, them. On the radar, a fast, sharp ship was gaining. Not a pirate, not a traitor. They found us too fast. Jace said. Jace said. Kalara touched her neck, eyes widening. The collar. The auction collar, it's a tracker. Jace cursed and rushed to the storage bay, grabbed a cutting tool and returned to her. Hold still. She didn't move as he carefully sliced the edge of the old collar. It sparked, cracked, then dropped with a soft thud. She stepped back, breathing deeply, as if the air finally belonged to her. We have 10 minutes before they catch us, Jace said. /CLRA. Looked at the star map. Then let's make those 10 minutes count. They fired the engines and twisted into a narrow asteroid belt. Sharp rocks and burning debris spun all around them. Jace flew like a ghost through chaos. The pursuing ship got closer. Can you fight? Jace asked. SARS, eyes burned. What do you think by the Blade Master Zavira? What do you think? She pulled a hidden blade from her bootlight, glowing blue and sharp enough to cut air. The enemy ship latched onto theirs. An airlock breach in 30 seconds. Kalara stood at the door. Jace handed her a blaster. We may not win this, he said. I'm not here to win, she said, voice cold. I'm here to return. The door burst open, and shadows rushed in. But this time, she didn't run. She fought, and the princess who once surrendered was gone. In her place stood a warrior, the planet of silence. The smoke cleared slowly inside the emberlight. Jace coughed as he pulled himself up from behind a console. The ship's control room was dim. Now sparks flew from broken wires. The walls were scratched from the fight. Beside him, Kalara stood tall, breathing hard, her blade dripping with dark alien blood. They had survived, but only just. 3 royal hunters lay motionless behind them. They had boarded with quiet confidence, thinking their prey was weak, untrained, broken. They were wrong. Kalara had moved like lightning, cutting with precision, dodging with grace. Jace had never seen anything like it. She fought like someone who had been born to lead armies. Yet when it was over, she stood in silence, staring at the last body. Not with anger, not with relief, but with sadness. "They were my guards once," she whispered. Jasek looked at her. "You knew them?" She nodded. "Their armor was repainted, their minds twisted. But yes, I trained beside one of them when I was a girl." "I'm sorry, don't be," she said softly. "They died long ago." What we saw was just what remained. The ship's systems beeped. Autopilot was still locked onto one destination, Clyvaros, a dead world. Once home to scientists and monks. Now silent, forgotten. "We're 10 minutes out," Jace said. Elyra didn't move. "What are we looking for on Clavaros?" he asked. "My father's memory," she replied. "And maybe the truth they buried." As the ember light entered orbit, they looked down on the planet. It was cracked, gray, covered in thick fog and glowing dust storms. No cities, no signals, just silence. "This place looks like death," Jace muttered. "Sometimes death hides life," Kalara said. They landed near an old structure half covered in ash and vines. A temple, maybe, or a vault. The doors were sealed, but Kylara placed her hand on a strange circular mark near the entrance. It pulsed once blue light shimmered from her skin, and the doors opened slowly with a deep rumble. "Biometric key?" Jace asked. "No," she said. "Blood memory." They entered the darkness. Torches lit automatically as they stepped inside, revealing walls covered in writings, symbols, and statues of robed figures holding orbs of fire. "This place is old," Jace said. "Like, really old." Kylara moved ahead. "My father visited this place every cycle before the rebellion. He said it was where the royal line was born, before the stars, before the crowns, when Alari still believed in purpose, not power." They moved deeper. They reached a massive chamber. In its center stood a tall column of light. Inside it floated a memory crystal. Jay had seen these before, rare technology that stored living memories. Most were erased during the Great Wars. One glowed with royal energy. Elyra reached for it. "Wait," Jay said. "What if it's trapped?" "Then I'll die hearing his voice," she replied. She touched the crystal. Light exploded around them, and then a voice spoke not just in their ears, but in their minds. "To my daughter Kylara, if you are hearing this, then I am gone, and the Empire has fallen." Kylara closed her eyes. Her hands trembled. "You were betrayed by blood, by those who feared your spirit. They turned the council, twisted our guards, and sold our legacy. But the royal flame lives on in you." The chamber filled with the image of the old king, strong, tall, eyes kind. Within this vault is a name, a secret name. It belongs to the one who ordered your death, not your cousin, but the high priest, the one who stands beside all kings yet wears no crown. His control is deep, his corruption unseen. Jace's face darkened. Kylara's eyes opened. Rage burned now. Asterisk, asterisk. "You must not return in anger, my child," the memory said. "You must return with light. If you become them, they win. Lead differently. Lead with truth." The crystal dimmed. The light faded, and silence returned. Saleya said nothing. Gosh. But Jace saw her face change. Something had cracked in. Something stronger had grown in its place. "We have to go," she said. "What's in the vault?" Jace asked. She walked to a hidden door behind the column. It opened when she touched it. Inside were scrolls, records, documents. It's all the names of royal families, soldiers, traitors, and deep within it, the priest sealed proof of his orders. This can burn their lies," Jace said. Saleya nodded. "But it must reach the right ears. If we shout too soon, they'll erase it before it spreads." Suddenly, the temple began to shake. "They followed us," Jace said. Outside, a massive ship landed, black as night. Royal symbols freshly painted in blood red. "They sent the High Inquisitor," Kylara whispered. "The priest's personal killer." Jace pulled his weapon. What do we do? Ilara looked at him, her eyes calm. We survive, she said, and we carry truth through fire. As the temple doors burst open and footsteps echoed inside, Jace stood beside her. Ready? They were no longer a princess and a stranger. They were a flame reborn. Betrayal of Crown's temple shook with heavy footsteps. Echoes bounced off the ancient stone walls. Dust fell from the ceiling. Outside, the ground rumbled as a black royal dropship settled like a beast ready to feed. Inside the vault, Kalara stood still, holding the sealed scroll with the priests, named the man who ordered her downfall. This was more than evidence. It was truth. Truth that could bring down a kingdom. Jace tightened the strap on his blaster and glanced at her. How many do you think are coming? Not many, she replied. Calmly, the High Inquisitor never travels with large forces. He doesn't need to. Why? Because fear is his army. She stepped toward the main chamber again. Every movement was full of purpose now. The silence in her steps was the silence of a storm before it strikes. Her mind wasn't clouded with fear anymore, only clarity. They reached the main door just as a shadow appeared in the distant stall, cloaked, still, the High Inquisitor. His armor was made of dark plates woven with gold. Instead of a helmet, he wore a smooth mask, featureless and cold. His voice cut through the still air like a knife. You should not have come back, Kalara. Jace raised his weapon. The Inquisitor didn't flinch. And you, human, do you even know who you're protecting? I know enough, Jace replied. Then, you know she's marked by death. And by choosing her, so are you. Kalara stepped forward, then let death do its best. In a flash, soldiers moved from the ship. Only 6. But they moved with perfect timing, silent as ghosts. Kalara didn't wait. She ran straight into the fight. Her blade danced like fire through the foggy dusk. Jace stayed at the rear, taking cover behind old stone, shooting carefully. One by one, the soldiers fell, but not easily. Jace was hit on his shoulder and fell back. Gasping, Datsalea turned just in time to block a blow aimed at him. She cut the attacker down and helped Jace stand. The Inquisitor still hadn't moved. He'd watched them like a hunter watches a wounded animal. Finally, he raised his hand. Everything stopped. The sky above them darkened. The light dimmed not from clouds, but from something heavier. It's almost like a power that twisted the very space around them. Soleil stepped forward, sword in hand. You used to kneel before my father? I did, the Inquisitor said. Before he forgot the old ways. Before he grew weak. He chose peace. He chose death, the Inquisitor replied. And you were supposed to burn with. Him? I did burn, Kalara said, stepping closer. But your fire only woke mine. The Inquisitor reached behind his cloak and pulled a staff-along rod tipped with crystal that glowed a deep red. He pointed it at her. The air around them shimmered. Let me guess, Jace muttered. Clutching his wounded shoulder, he has magic now. Not magic, Kalara whispered. Forbidden tech. Mind breakers, soul stirrers. Stolen from the ancient vaults. She turned to Jace. I need you to run. He shook his head. Not happening. Please, she said. You carry the scroll now. If I fail, you won't. The Inquisitor raised the staff, and a shockwave burst from it. A cholera leaped to the side, but the wave cracked the stone floor beneath her. Jace was thrown backward and hit the wall hard. Salar rolled to her feet, now facing the man who had hunted her since she was a girl. This was the one who whispered lies to the council, the one who ordered the guards to turn, the one who stood beside her as her cousin was crowned and she was done running. They clashed blade against staff, fire against fury. Every strike shook the temple floor. Walls cracked, old statues shattered, but something shifted. Kailara's movements became sharper, her strikes more precise. Her mind was clear. For the first time, she wasn't fighting for revenge. She was fighting for truth. For the girl who had cried in chains. For the name they tried to erase. A sudden blow sent the Inquisitor's staff flying. He reached for a dagger, but Kailara was faster. She slammed her blade into the stone beside his head. He froze. She grabbed his mask and tore it off. Underneath was a face she once knew, a royal advisor. Her uncle's most trusted hand. His face was pale, eyes cold. "You were family," she said. "Family is a weakness," he spat. "Then I'll never be yours again." She knocked him unconscious with the hilt of her blade. Jace limped over, still holding the scroll. "Remind me never to argue with you," he groaned. Solera helped him walk. "You argue fine, but you can't dodge plasma," he chuckled. "True." They didn't stay long. They took the scrolls, the evidence, and encrypted a copy into Jace's ship systems. The Emberlight rose once again, this time carrying not just survivors, but revolution. As the temple sank into silence once more, the stars above seemed to burn brighter. A royal name had returned, but her fight was far from over. The burning flag Nemberlight drifted toward the outer rim of the galaxy where no kings ruled, no empires watched, and only whispers of rebellion remained. Here, in the ruins of forgotten wars and silent moons, the last loyal forces of the royal line were said to hide. Jace adjusted the stabilizers. Kylara sat beside him, her sword across her lap, and the sealed scroll held tightly in her hand. "You think they'll believe me?"
Yes.
she asked quietly. "They will," Jace said. "Once they see what you've survived, they'll have no doubt." Kylara didn't answer. She stared at her reflection in the window. Her face had changed, less noble, more scarred, less soft, more steel. But behind her eyes, the same flame still burned, the same fire that refused. To die in chains, they arrived at Siren 4, a barren desert moon with shattered cliffs and endless sandstorms. Beneath the surface, deep within a mountain split by war, was the hidden base of the Red Dust Legion. The last force that once swore loyalty to her father. Jakey guided the ship down. No welcome signals, no lights, just rock and wind, until they landed from behind the cliffs. Figures stepped out, armored, masked, weapons drawn. Their leader, tall, with a crimson scarf tied around silver armor, approached them. "Name," the leader demanded. Calara stepped forward. Kylara Lari, daughter of King Turan, lame-born heir to the throne. The soldiers shifted. Some laughed softly, others just watched in silence. "Kylara Elari is dead," the leader said. Burned in the capital fire. Kylara reached into her cloak and pulled out the scroll. She handed it to him. "Read that out loud," she said. He hesitated, then obeyed. His voice echoed across the canyon. "By order of the High Priest Thalos, the girl shall be removed quietly. No death on record, no blood on the steps. She must vanish, and with her, the flame of the Alari line." Silence followed. The leader lowered the scroll. He pulled off his helmet, an older face, hard-worn but eyes full of pain. "I held your hand when you were 7, he said slowly. "You asked me why soldiers wore armor when kings wore robes. And I told you," Kylara whispered, "that robes are made to hide weakness, but armor shows you carry it." He nodded, then knelt. The soldiers followed, but not all of them. From the back of the group, a voice rose, sharp, angry. "This could be a trick. She shows up with a human and a story. We've been hunted for years, and now she appears like a ghost with a sword." A younger woman stepped forward, hair braided tight, face full of defiance. "We followed your father, but this isn't the court. We don't kneel to shadows." Kylara walked toward her slowly. "Then don't kneel." The woman's eyes narrowed. "Double quote, stand with me," Kylara said, "or walk away." But no, this eye didn't come to wear a crown. I came to burn a lie. She turned and raised her sword. "If you need proof of who I am, follow me into fire. If I fall, then the flame dies with me. But if I stand, let it light every heart still loyal to the truth." The silence broke with a single sound, the red flag of the Legion being torn down, and a new one rising. A simple banner, a golden flame on black cloth, the mark of the true heir. Hours later, in the hidden war room of the base, Kylara stood beside Jace and the red dust commanders. Maps glowed on tables. Enemy movements, loyalist signals, blockaded systems all, blinking like warnings. The High Priest still controls the core systems, one general said. He's feeding the people false news, claiming the last heirs are dead. Then let him hear my voice, Kylara replied. They activated the signal tower buried beneath the moon. For the first time in 3 years, the royal channel was accessed. Cala stood before the camera. No crown, no throne, just her, scars and all. People of the Alari worlds, she said, voice strong. You've been told I died. No showed. You fire? They hid the truth. But here I stand. She raised the scroll in her hand. I bring not just words but proof. The Empire is ruled by a lie, and those who remember the flame, you are not alone. The message broadcasted across the outer worlds. Pirates, traitors, ex-soldiers, and even silent watchers from the stars saw her face, heard her voice, remembered her name. The Empire responded swiftly. 2 hours later, the fleet moved toward CERN-4.10 warships. 50 fighters, no time to prepare. As the base rushed into defense mode, Jace found Kylara in the courtyard. Watching the stars? They're coming, he said. Good, she replied. Then let them see the flame rise. Do you think we'll win? No, she said honestly. But winning isn't what scares them. What does? Hope. The first shot fired from orbit. The mountain shook. Soldiers shouted. Kylara! Led them all no longer just a princess, but a symbol. And as the dust rose, the enemy ships fell through the sky like firebirds. Jace stood by her side. Because sometimes the strongest crown is not made of gold, but of courage. War of the Stolen Throne War had begun. The red dust base on Siren 4 burned beneath the raining fire of Imperial warships. The once hidden mountain stronghold shook as energy blasts tore through its stone walls. Sirens screamed and soldiers rushed through smoke-filled corridors in the command center. Jace stood in front of the main screen, his arm freshly bandaged. Red lines blinked on the Displeach one, an enemy vessel moving closer to the surface. But Kylara, she wasn't in the command room. She was on the front line, outside. Under the broken sky, she moved with fire in her heart and a sword in her hand. Each command she gave was sharp. Each step she took was steady, around her. Soldiers, many of them doubters just hours ago, now followed her without question. Focus fire on the lead dropship, Kylara shouted as another enemy ship descended. Blasters lit up the sky. Debris fell like metal rain. Kylara didn't flinch. The enemy soldiers who touched down were Aletha High Priest's personal warriors, dressed in black and silver, carrying weapons etched with forbidden tech. But something had changed. They didn't see a princess anymore. They saw a threat. Kylara moved like a shadow through the battlefield, deflecting, striking, pushing forward. Beside her, Jace appeared, holding a rifle and breathing hard. They breached the east tunnels, he said. Then we lead them into it, Kylara replied. You want to trap them? She nodded. They're chasing ghosts. Let's become fire. Beneath the mountain, they laid the trap. Hollow corridor filled with fuel cells and old machinery. Kylara stood just at the edge with a small strike team. When they enter, we close the doors, and we light the sky, she said. Jace looked at her. Are you sure about this? This could take out half the base? Only the part they already destroyed, she replied. He hesitated, then nodded. The enemy entered Selaway, gave the signal. Doors slammed shut. Heat sensors activated. The fuel caught. The mountain shook again, but this time from inside. Fire roared through the halls, and enemy screams echoed before silence fell. When it was over, Kylara stood at the edge of the crater, her face lit by the burning flames. Soldiers gathered around, some staring in awe. She turned to them. This is what they fear, not weapons, not armies. They fear our memory, our truth, they cheered. But the celebration didn't last long. One of the scouts rushed forward, eyes wide. We intercepted a transmission from the Imperial fleet. They're retreating, but not because of us. Kylara frowned. Why then? They received new orders. The High Priest is returning to the capital. He's calling for a public coronation. He's going to claim the throne, permanently. The room went still. Jace stepped forward. He's trying to end the game. If he's crowned, he controls the council and the fleets. Then we don't wait, Kylara said. We strike. Now, within the hour, the Emberlight left Siren 4 with a skeleton fleet of loyal ships behind it. Slash stood at the ship's window, watching the stars fly past. Jace joined her. You know, this could be suicide, right? He asked, probably, she said. You still want to go through with it? She looked at him. I was sold in a cage, hunted across stars, chained and scarred. And still I stand. At least the galaxy will know I stood for something. He gave a small smile. You stood for everything? They arrived at Elysian, the imperial capital planet, a place of shining towers, floating platforms, and golden skies. But beneath the beauty was darkness. The coronation was set to begin. Slade disguised herself in a black cloak. Her blade hidden, her eyes sharp. JACE and a small team moved with her through underground tunnels that connected to the High Court's inner chambers. Once the ceremony starts, security will tighten, Jace whispered. We need to move before then. But as they stepped closer to the gate, a voice echoed through the chamber. So the little flame returns at last. They turned. The High Priest stood in the hallway alone, unarmed but smiling. I wondered how long you'd hide in shadows. He said, but it's fitting. You were born in fire. You'll die in it. Kylara stepped forward. You stole my family, my people, my name. No, he said calmly. I gave you the truth. Power is not meant to be shared. It is meant to be taken, and take it from me now. He raised his hand and Kylara was thrown across the hall by an invisible force. JSC rushed to her side. The priest stepped forward. You think you're strong because they cheer for you now? But cheers fade. Fear stays. Kylara stood, her sword in her hand, eyes full of fury. Then fear me, she whispered. They clashed blade against dark energy. Jace fired from the side, distracting the priest just long enough for Kylara to strike. Her blade slashed across the priest's chest. He staggered back. You are no queen, he spat. She looked down at him, breathing hard. No, she said. I'm the end of your empire. With one final strike, she ended him. The High Priest fell, his mask cracking on the stone floor. Kylara walked through the High Court gates. The coronation was interrupted. Crowds watched as she entered. She held the scroll high. This was his truth, now hear mine. The recording played. The room fell silent. Guards dropped their weapons. Nobles wept, for the first time in years. The flame returned to the throne, but Kylara did not sit. She turned to the crowd. I do not seek power, she said. I seek justice. Not for those who still carry fire in their hearts. Stand with me, not beneath me. The people rose, and the flame was no longer just a symbol, it was a future. The royal flame lives on the throne room of Elysian, had not seen peace for many years. Now it stood in stunned silence. The High Priest's body had been taken away. The guards had laid down their weapons. The nobles, once drunk with power and fear, now bowed their heads not in forced obedience but in shame. Kylara stood before the throne, but she did not sit. She looked at the chair carved from ancient crystal and obsidian, glowing with the power of thousands of years of rule. It had once belonged to her father, before betrayal, before blood, before the chains. Now, it waited for her. But Kylara wasn't here to be crowned. She turned to the gathered council, the nobles, the fleet captains who had arrived late, watching the city through the tall glass windows. Your silence helped him rule, she said, voice calm but heavy. Your fear let him build lies. I came not to rule as he did, but to remind you of what a ruler should be. She raised the scroll. The truth will no longer be hidden. The scroll was placed in the public archive, broadcast to every system. In the Empire, the people watched across planets, moons, and ships. They saw the evidence of her survival, her fight, and the crimes of the one who had tried to erase her. Revolution sparked overnight, but not of war, of belief. The next day, Cholera walked through the city. No guards, no servants. Just her. In a simple cloak, moving quietly among her people. Some bowed. Some gasped. Others simply stared. An old woman reached out and touched her arm. "I told my granddaughter stories about you," she whispered. "I didn't know they were real." "They weren't," Kylara replied softly. "Until now." As she walked past the old walls painted with symbols of fire, she saw something new, children drawing her symbol. Not the crown, not the throne, but the flame. Jack met her near the sky bridge, where the view overlooked all of Elysian. Ships flew gently across the skyline. A light breeze pushed her hair back. "They're asking for your coronation," he said. Ella shook her head. "They don't need a queen. They need a future. You can give them both." She looked at him. "No, we can." The council gathered that evening. Slay entered the chamber, with Jace and her red dust commanders. A hush fell over the room. "You came to watch me sit on the throne," she began. "But that era is over. The crown no longer rules the flame. The flame belongs to everyone." A murmur passed through the nobles. "I will not rule with fear. I will not hide truth, and I will never become what hunted me." "What will you do then?" one counselor asked. She stepped forward. "Build something better. Together. No more secrets. No more royal blood games." The council was divided, some uncertain, others relieved. But no one spoke against her. How could they? They had seen her fight with their own eyes. They had watched her bleed rise, burned through lies with the fire of a soul that refused to break. And above all, they had seen the people choose her not because of power, because of hope. Weeks passed. Kylara didn't take the crown. Instead, she established a council of equals leaders from different systems, backgrounds, and races. No more single rulers. No more dynasties. The throne was turned into a monumentous symbol of the past, and beside it, she placed a torch that burned endlessly. The eternal flame fueled by light from a distant star and the legacy of those who died for the truth. Ships were rebuilt. Families reunited. Old war-torn systems were given aid. Borders once drawn with weapons were redrawn with hands. In Kylara, she remained with the people. Everywhere she went, stories followed. She once cut down an inquisitor with a broken blade. She burned a mountain to save a base. She walked through fire and came out brighter. But her favorite story was the quiet one. The one Jace told 2 children in orphan shelters. "They called her a slave," he said. "But I saw a queen in her eyes. She reminded us that you don't need a crown to be powerful. You just need to believe you still matter." One night, beneath the twin moons of a peaceful world, Kylara stood beside Jace. "Do you regret saving me that day?" she asked. He looked at her, eyes soft. "You weren't the one who was saved," he said. "I was." She smiled and turned. "To the stars? So many still need saving." He nodded. "Then let's keep going." She looked at him, her flame still burning, stronger than ever. Together. With that, they walked forward into a future shaped not by crowns or chains, but by choice, courage, and fire. The royal flame lived on, but now it belonged to all.